Am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my wedding after she wore a white dress as a joke? Hi Reddit. I've been going back and forth about posting this, but after 2 weeks of non-stop family drama, emotional exhaustion, and way too many group texts I've muted, I need to hear from people who weren't at my wedding and don't know my family. Maybe then I can finally get some clarity on whether I really did something wrong, or if I just finally hit my limit. So here we go. I just got married to Jake, my partner of 5 years. It was a beautiful spring wedding that we spent over a year planning down to the smallest detail. We're both pretty sentimental people, so everything had meaning to us: the flowers, the music, the vows, even the menu. It was our dream wedding, and we poured so much love and effort into making it perfect. But of course, not everything went as planned. Enter my younger sister Lisa, 24F. She's always been difficult. That's honestly putting it mildly. Growing up, Lisa and I had that classic older sibling/younger sibling rivalry, but instead of mellowing out with time, it sort of calcified into this strange dynamic where she constantly felt the need to compete or one-up me. I was the golden child academically, I got good grades, was involved in clubs, got into a good college, etc. Lisa, meanwhile, leaned hard into being the wild one. She was always chasing attention in loud, chaotic ways. That doesn't make her evil or anything. I know people cope with insecurity differently, but her antics have worn me down over the years. Lisa has always had a very specific brand of humor. She thinks it's funny to break rules, poke at insecurities, and watch people's reactions. She's the kind of person who would unplug your laptop before you saved your essay and then laugh like it was the best joke in the world. Just a prank is her go-to defense whenever someone's feelings are hurt. Growing up, she'd constantly prank me, interrupt my moments, or deliberately do things she knew I hated and claim it was just teasing. So, you can probably imagine my anxiety when I started planning my wedding and had to decide whether to include her in the bridal party. I didn't want to start a war by excluding her, and truthfully, there was a part of me that still held out hope she'd respect the importance of the day. So, I made her a bridesmaid. I gave her the same choices for dresses as the rest of the girls: forest green, any style from a specific boutique, nothing flashy. I also made sure everyone knew one of my only hard rules: absolutely no white, ivory, or anything that could be mistaken for a wedding dress. I made that clear. Multiple times. I even said it half-jokingly, like, just pretend white is cursed for the day. Lisa smirked but didn't say anything. Fast forward to the wedding day. Everything was going smoothly at first. The ceremony was beautiful. I was so overwhelmed walking down the aisle and seeing Jake tear up. My best friend gave an incredible speech. The food was delicious, the venue looked stunning, the photographer was capturing these magical little moments, and for once, Lisa was behaving. She wore her green dress, smiled in photos, and didn't say anything snarky during the morning prep. I started to relax. Then the reception started. About an hour in, Lisa disappeared for a while. I assumed she was in the bathroom or maybe helping someone. No big deal. Then I saw her re-enter the hall from the side entrance. My stomach dropped. She had changed into a full-length, sparkling white dress. Not cream. Not champagne. White. It was tight-fitting, had a plunging neckline, sequins all over, and a small train. It looked like something you'd wear if you were trying to audition for a bridal magazine cover shoot. People literally stopped dancing. Heads turned. I heard someone say, "Wait, is that the bride's sister?" I was stunned. She just stood there, grinning like she was the cleverest person in the room. I walked up to her, trying to keep my voice steady, and asked what she thought she was doing. She said, laughing, "You told us not to wear white, so I had to." "It's a joke, relax. You're still obviously the bride." I didn't find it funny. I told her to go change back. She said she left the green dress in her car. I told her, firmly, that this was not okay, that she knew the rule, and this was absolutely disrespectful. Her smile started to fade. She said, "Are you seriously mad?" It's just a dress. Everyone knows it's your wedding. At that point, I told her she needed to leave. If she wouldn't change, she was no longer welcome. Cue the explosion. She started crying, saying I was ruining the night and humiliating her in front of everyone. She tried to spin it like I was being controlling and jealous, yes, jealous, and that I was choosing a stupid dress code over family. My mom and dad got involved. My mom tried to calm me down, saying Lisa didn't really mean harm and probably just wanted to feel pretty. My dad said I was being harsh and told me to think about how this would affect family peace. But you know who didn't say I was overreacting? My husband. His mom. My friends. Every single bridesmaid. Even the DJ looked like he wanted to throw her out himself. In the end, I didn't back down. I had a quick, quiet word with the venue manager, and they escorted Lisa outside. She screamed at me the whole way, saying I was an uptight ******H, that I was always like this, and that she hoped I had a miserable honeymoon. Real classy stuff. The rest of the night went on, but there was a shadow over it. Some guests were awkward, others confused. My parents left early. A few aunts have since texted me saying I should have kept the peace and let it go. Lisa has blocked me on everything. My mom is heartbroken and keeps begging me to apologize and fix this before it's too late. But I feel like I've always been the one expected to fix things. Lisa pushes boundaries, causes chaos, and hides behind just joking when people get hurt. I'm tired of it. So here I am. Sitting with a photo album I can't fully enjoy because it reminds me of the drama. Wondering if I was really wrong to stand up for myself. Reddit, am I the asshole for kicking my sister out of my wedding for wearing a white dress as a joke?
Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my airplane seat for a mom with a baby even though I was in first class? I know how the headline sounds. Before you jump to conclusions, let me tell you the whole story, because it's been eating away at me for days. My name's Evan. I'm 32 years old, I work in cybersecurity consulting, and I don't usually post on Reddit, but I've been wrestling with something that happened last week on a flight from San Francisco to New York. I told my sister about it, and she called me selfish. A buddy I play squash with said I did the right thing. Now I'm hoping internet strangers might offer some unbiased perspective. Let's back up. I had just wrapped a brutal 3-week project with a biotech firm in the Bay Area. Without getting into the weeds, I was brought in because someone on their internal team left a huge vulnerability in their data systems, the kind of thing that could have led to a catastrophic breach. The pressure was insane. I averaged about 5 hours of sleep a night, living in a hotel and surviving mostly on cold brew and stale breakfast bars. By the end of it, my eyes twitched involuntarily from stress, and my hands shook from too much caffeine and not enough sleep. The night before my flight, I finally got the green light to go home. I was so fried I could barely think straight. But one thing I did think about? How desperately I needed a calm, uninterrupted flight. So I decided to cash in 90,000 airline miles I'd been hoarding like a dragon. I booked a first-class seat. Not because I needed champagne and hot towels, but because I needed space, silence, and the chance to maybe sleep for 4 straight hours. The morning of the flight, I got to San Francisco Airport early. I skipped the lounge, too tired to even socialize, and just grabbed a bottle of water and a bagel. I remember thinking, just get to your seat, and everything will be okay for a few hours. I boarded first, settled into seat 2A, window seat, leather, spacious. I tucked my laptop bag under the seat, pulled out a paperback I hadn't touched in weeks, and let out a long breath. I was just starting to exhale when it happened. A woman, maybe mid-30s, brunette, visibly tired, came on board with an infant, maybe 6 or 7 months old. She was struggling to hold a diaper bag, a baby carrier, and a folded stroller that the gate agent had probably just forced her to carry herself. The baby was already fussing, squirming in her arms. At first, I didn't think much of it. I assumed she was heading for coach, like most families. But then she stopped beside my seat. She looked at me with an expression that was a mix of hope, exhaustion, and mild desperation. "Hi," she said. "Listen. I know this is awkward, but I was wondering, would you be willing to switch seats with me? I'm in 23B, middle seat. I thought maybe first class would be easier with the baby. I blinked. She went on. It's just really hard back there, and he cries the whole time sometimes. I thought maybe the extra space would help. I'd be super grateful. I looked at her. Looked at the baby, who was now grabbing at her necklace. Looked back at my seat. The space. The legroom. The blissful, pillow-cushioned silence I had imagined for days. And I said, as gently as I could, I'm really sorry. I understand it's hard, but I've had a rough couple weeks and I kind of need this space. Her face fell. Not dramatically. Not like she burst into tears or made a scene. But just this quiet, crestfallen slump, like the last tiny ember of hope had been snuffed out. She nodded. Okay, she said flatly. Thanks anyway. Then she turned, jostled the baby higher on her hip, and started the long trek back to coach. I won't lie. I felt like an absolute piece of garbage. I sat there in my oversized seat, feeling every inch of my privilege, every fiber of guilt. When the doors closed, I could still hear the baby's soft cries coming from 20 rows back. A few minutes later, the guy across the aisle, maybe late 40s, expensive-looking watch, leaned toward me and said, "Cold move, man." Then he popped in his earbuds and reclined without another word. I stared out the window and tried to rationalize it. I'd paid for the seat, well, with miles, but same difference. I needed rest. I wasn't being cruel, just choosing myself for once, something I'm usually terrible at. But still, that look on her face. Halfway through the flight, I got up to stretch my legs and used the restroom in coach. I walked past her row. She looked even more wrecked than before. The baby was asleep against her shoulder, her hair a mess, a burp cloth slung over her shoulder like a forgotten flag. She saw me and offered a tired, neutral nod. I nodded back. When I got home, I told my sister, a mother of 2 boys, what had happened. She looked at me like I'd just admitted to stealing candy from a hospital gift shop. You what? She said. You left a mom and coach with a baby? After she asked nicely? You could have made her entire flight easier. She asked me to give up a seat I spent months saving miles for, I said. She asked for help, she replied. That's different. I started second-guessing myself. My own mother, who's usually incredibly supportive, said something similar when I mentioned it to her. She said, I'm not mad, just disappointed, which, as you know, is worse. But other people took my side. My coworker said it was absurd to expect someone to give up a first-class seat for a stranger. My friend Josh said, it's not like you stole her seat. If she wanted first class, she should have booked it. So here I am. Torn. On the one hand, I know what it's like to feel completely burned out. I really did need that flight to decompress. I've had panic attacks before, and I'd been tiptoeing on the edge of one for days. On the other hand, she wasn't asking for luxury. She was asking for relief. For a little bit of grace. Maybe I should have given it to her. Maybe I was selfish. So Reddit, be honest with me. Am I the asshole for refusing to give up my first-class seat to a mom with a baby? AITA for reporting my coworker for using fake pronouns in meetings to get attention? This is going to be a long one, so thanks in advance if you stick with me. I work at a mid-sized tech company in Seattle. It's a pretty progressive place, lots of emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. We have quarterly sensitivity training, inclusive hiring pipelines, and an open, accommodating culture overall. I've been here for 5 years and have worked hard to become a lead on my team, UX and front-end design. For the most part, I've loved it. A few months ago, a new hire joined our team. Let's call them Jordan, 28. Jordan came on as a UX researcher, and from the get-go, they made a splash, very extroverted, confident, opinionated. Nothing wrong with that. But something about Jordan rubbed a lot of us the wrong way, even before the pronoun stuff started. In our very first team meeting, as is standard practice, we did introductions, name, role, and pronouns. Most people just said she slash her, he slash him, or they slash them. But Jordan went with something I had honestly never heard before. Hi, I'm Jordan, and I use */*/*self pronouns. That caught me off guard. I've been around enough to know what neopronouns are, and I've tried to educate myself on them. I even had a former coworker who used xe/zer. It was new for me, sure, but I respected it. But */***self? It felt different. Almost whimsical. Still, I didn't say anything. No one did. Claire, our manager, she/her, nodded, smiled, and thanked everyone for sharing. She even emphasized that we should all make an effort to use everyone's correct pronouns. Totally fair. Over the next few weeks, things got weird. Claire and others started using Jordan's pronouns in meetings and team Slack messages. Example, big thanks to Jordan for Star's great insight into the onboarding flow. Or, I loved Star's idea about the accessibility overlay. It was jarring to read, and more than a few people privately told me they didn't know how to pronounce it in conversation or were nervous they'd mess up. But we all tried. That's what you do. You try. Except, here's where it gets complicated. In smaller meetings, one-on-one calls, or casual convos, people would slip and use they/them or she/her for Jordan. And Jordan never corrected them. In fact, Jordan sometimes used for someone like me, a woman in tech, in casual conversation. So that was confusing. But again, I told myself, maybe it's a comfort level thing. Maybe Jordan is fluid. Maybe Jordan uses multiple pronouns. I didn't feel it was my place to interrogate that. Until the lunch incident. It happened in our office kitchen, which is semi-open. I was reheating leftovers and heard Jordan talking with another coworker, a new engineer named Matt. They were laughing about something, and I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but then I heard Jordan say, "I swear, I just wanted to see how far I could push it. Like, I read this think piece on neopronouns and thought, oh man, these corporate DEI types will eat this up. So I picked Star. It sounded cool. And now it's like, boom. No one dares question me. Total invincibility cloak. I froze. Jordan noticed me right after they said it. Their face changed instantly. I nodded at them and left. I didn't say a word, but I felt furious. Betrayed? I'm not sure how to describe it. I spent the next few days wrestling with it. I have friends who are trans. I have friends who use neopronouns. I know how hard it is to be taken seriously when you use non-traditional pronouns, how often you're mocked, dismissed, treated like a punchline. And here was someone who, at least based on what I heard, was using that very thing to manipulate the system. Not because they needed those pronouns to feel affirmed, but as a kind of social experiment. Or worse, a joke. It felt disrespectful. It felt exploitive. I sat on it for about a week. Then I wrote a note to HR. I kept it professional. I didn't say Jordan is faking their identity or make assumptions. I just said I had concerns about a possible misuse of our DEI systems and that I had overheard a conversation suggesting that one of our team members was adopting non-traditional pronouns disingenuously, potentially as a social test or performance. I shared the quote, word for word, and asked if HR could look into it. They responded a few days later thanking me for the report and saying they'd follow up. No further details. Jordan still came to work, still used */***self pronouns, and, at least publicly, nothing changed. But about a week later, Jordan confronted me after a Zoom meeting. They asked if I had reported them to HR. I didn't lie. I said yes, and explained why. Jordan got very upset. Accused me of weaponizing my cis privilege and said I was invalidating a marginalized identity. They said I had no right to challenge someone else's pronouns, and that even if they had been experimenting at first, it was none of my f-ing business. Then word started spreading. Not from me, I kept my mouth shut. But Jordan clearly told others, because suddenly several coworkers were cold to me. One unfriended me on Slack. Another told me I had serious bias issues and should educate myself. Meanwhile, a few others quietly messaged me to say they also felt uncomfortable and thanked me for speaking up. One person even said they were relieved they had felt like a bigot for being confused by Jordan's behavior. Now I'm stuck. Jordan still works here. HR hasn't told me what, if anything, happened. But the atmosphere on the team is tense. Half the team seems to think I'm a transphobic snitch. The other half, quietly, agrees with me, but won't say it out loud. I've been losing sleep over it. I keep asking myself if I crossed a line. Was I out of line for reporting this? Did I misread a situation and cause harm? Is it ever okay to question someone's identity if it seems like they're using it performatively? On the other hand, if what I heard is true, that Jordan is knowingly using a made-up identity to shield themselves from critique or boost their standing, isn't that a kind of manipulation? Doesn't that harm people who genuinely need those protections? So Reddit, AITA? For reporting my co-worker for what I believe was a fake pronoun stunt?
AITA for kicking my unemployed boyfriend out after he secretly drained my entire emergency fund to invest in crypto? Hi Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting here, but I need outside perspective because I'm so emotionally raw and confused right now. I don't know what's fair anymore. This might be long, but I need to get it all out. I, 28F, have been with my now ex-boyfriend Jake, 30M, for just over 2 years. When we met, he was charming, funny, ambitious, or so I thought. He had a job in sales at a mid-sized tech company, lived with a roommate, and came off as someone who had his life more or less together. I'm a nurse, stable job, decent hours, not glamorous but steady. I'm also very type A when it comes to money. I budget. I save. I track my expenses. I've worked since I was 17, paid my own way through nursing school, and after a few tough years, I'd built a small but solid emergency fund, around $18,000. I should mention that I own my apartment. It was passed down to me from my grandmother when she passed away. No mortgage, just property taxes and maintenance. That's been a huge financial blessing, and I've always been grateful for it. It also made me feel okay helping Jake when things started to go downhill. About 7 months ago, Jake got laid off. He told me it was due to company restructuring. I was sympathetic, layoffs happen, and the job market can be brutal. I told him he could stay with me rent-free for a while to get back on his feet. He moved in officially, though he was already spending most nights at my place anyway. At first, he seemed motivated. He said he was going to use the opportunity to find a job that really matters. He talked a lot about pivoting into something meaningful, maybe marketing, maybe content creation, maybe tech consulting. But after a few weeks, it became clear that he wasn't really applying to anything. I'd ask how the job hunt was going, and he'd wave me off, still researching, networking, waiting to hear back from a guy. Meanwhile, he started diving headfirst into crypto. He'd stay up all night reading Reddit threads and watching YouTube videos. He got really into Twitter/X finance bros and kept telling me, "This is the next big wave. We're in early. The smart people are getting in now." I thought it was a weird hobby, but I didn't say much. Everyone needs a distraction. Then it stopped being a distraction and became an obsession. He started referring to it as his full-time job. I kid you not, he actually said, "Trading is work, it's just a new kind of work. Not everyone gets it." I reminded him, gently at first, that crypto is not a guaranteed income stream, and he still needed to find a stable job. He accused me of not supporting his dreams. I dropped it. I didn't want to fight. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago. I brought my car into the shop for a fairly routine repair. My brake pads were squealing. The bill came to around $600. I handed over my debit card like I always do, and it was declined. Embarrassed and confused, I tried again. Declined. I logged into my bank account and nearly vomited. My emergency savings, my carefully saved, 3 years in the making fund, was basically empty. It had less than $200 in it. My first thought was fraud. I called the bank in a panic. They confirmed that the transfers were authorized, and all from my own devices. My next thought was Jake. I asked him, no, I confronted him, and he didn't even try to deny it. He just said, super casually, yeah, I used it. I meant to tell you. You meant to tell me? I was shaking. I asked him what the hell he was talking about, and he explained, like he was explaining the weather, that he'd been leveraging my savings into high-potential altcoins because the market was about to explode and we were going to miss the window. His exact words were, "You don't get it. I did this for us." That fund was just sitting there. This could have doubled or tripled in weeks. I asked him how much he took. He said most of it. Turns out, he pulled $16,700 in total. He left just enough in the account that it wouldn't trigger fraud alerts. He used my laptop. He had guessed my password because, as he put it, you always use nurse-related stuff. He tried to justify it by saying that we were a team, and what's mine is yours. Keep in mind, this man has not paid a single bill in 7 months. I was covering groceries, utilities, even his Uber Eats habit, which had gotten way out of hand. And now, my emergency fund, the one thing keeping me financially safe, was gone. And the crypto? It crashed. Hard. Most of it went into something called Pepe Moon Token or Elon Doge Cash, I don't even remember. But it's gone. Gone. He admitted he made some risky plays that didn't pan out yet, but he's confident the rebound is coming. I told him to get out. Right there and then. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just went cold. I said, pack your stuff. You're out tonight. He looked stunned. Like I'd betrayed him. He started rambling about how I was being short-sighted, how I was prioritizing fiat currency over building wealth, how I'd regret this when he finally made it. He even tried to guilt-trip me. Said I gave up on him during his lowest moment and that real partners ride or die. I stood my ground. I packed a duffel bag for him, handed it to him, and told him he could figure out where to go next. He tried calling some friends. Most didn't answer. Eventually he went to stay with his brother. Since then, the messages have started. His friends messaging me saying I'm cold, heartless, selfish. That I crushed his spirit. Even my sister said maybe I acted too fast and should have at least given him a chance to explain himself more. That I threw away 2 years over a mistake. But Reddit, this wasn't just a mistake. It was theft. It was a betrayal of my trust on every level. He didn't just risk money, he risked my security, my future, my peace of mind. And he did it without telling me. Without even asking. So, AITA for kicking him out? Should I have given him a second chance? Part of me feels guilty, but the bigger part of me is just exhausted.
AITA for telling my adopted sister she's not a real part of the family during a fight? Hi Reddit. I, 17M, am seriously conflicted about something I said to my sister, 16F, who was adopted by my parents when we were both young. The words came out in anger, but now I'm questioning whether I just let years of resentment explode in a way that's unforgivable. This happened last night, and the house is still tense. My mom's barely speaking to me, my dad's cold, and Lily, my sister, hasn't come out of her room since it happened. I know what I said hurt her, but I also feel like there's more to the situation than just those words. I need help understanding if I crossed a line so far there's no coming back. I'm the biological child of my parents. When I was about 7, my parents adopted Lily from a Southeast Asian country. She was 6. My parents had been trying to have a second child for years but faced fertility issues. The adoption process was long and emotionally intense for them, and when Lily finally came home, it was like a dream come true for them. And for a while, it kind of was. At first, everything felt normal, or at least, what I thought was normal at that age. Lily and I played together, shared toys, went to the same elementary school. She didn't speak English fluently when she first arrived, so my parents put a lot of time and effort into helping her catch up. I was told to be patient and understanding, and I genuinely tried to be. She had a difficult early life, and I could see the sadness in her sometimes, even as a little kid. But as we grew up, things changed. Around middle school, Lily became different. She was more withdrawn, more irritable, and constantly in conflict with my parents and with me. She'd accuse me of being the favorite, and anytime I got praise, recognition, or even something small like choosing where we went for dinner, she'd roll her eyes and say something like, "Of course he gets what he wants. He's the real kid." At first, I brushed it off as insecurity. But it never stopped. Over time, it became like walking on eggshells. Every compliment I got felt like a landmine. If I got an A on a test, it was, well, he had a stable early life. If our grandparents visited for my birthday but not hers, she'd make snide comments about how they only care about blood. And the thing is, she wasn't entirely wrong. Our maternal grandparents, especially, are very old school. I don't think they mean to be cold to Lily, but they're not subtle about who they view as family. They make offhand comments. They struggle to pronounce her name properly even after all these years. When I confronted them about it once, they said, "We love her too, but it's different." That stung for me, and probably even more for Lily. My parents have always insisted on equality. They correct people, they call out biased behavior, they go out of their way to treat us the same. But they can't control everyone. And I think Lily started internalizing that difference and projecting it onto every part of our family dynamic. Now, fast forward to this week. I just graduated from high school. I got into my dream college, a competitive program in another state. My parents are proud. They planned a graduation party with a few close family members and friends. Nothing crazy. But they invited our grandparents, some aunts and uncles, and a couple of family friends. When Lily saw the invite list, she got really quiet. Later that night, she came into my room and just kind of exploded. She said, "I noticed something. Whenever you do something, the whole family shows up. When it's me, it's crickets." I tried to tell her that's not true, but she went on, "You don't get it because you've never had to. You belong in this family in a way I never will." That hurt. I told her that I'm tired of everything being a competition. That I've spent my whole life being made to feel guilty for being treated well, like I'm supposed to apologize for it. I said I don't get to enjoy anything without her turning it into an adoption issue. She fired back with, "You wouldn't understand what it's like to always feel like the guest in your own home." And I snapped. I said, "You know what? Maybe you're not treated like a real part of the family because you're not. You act like an outsider, you push everyone away, and then you complain when people aren't close to you. That's on you, not your adoption." The second I said it, the air left the room. She just looked at me. Her face went totally blank, not angry, not crying, just empty. She didn't say a word. She walked out and slammed her door. I haven't seen her since. My mom was in the hallway and heard the whole thing. She came in and just said, "How could you?" My dad came home from work later, found out, and hasn't looked at me the same way since. I tried to explain that I didn't mean it the way it sounded. I told my mom that I felt cornered, like years of built-up resentment just exploded. I said I didn't literally mean she's not part of the family, just that her actions sometimes alienate people. But my mom said that nuance doesn't matter, not when you say something that confirms someone's worst fear about themselves. Lily's barely spoken a word to anyone. She's skipping dinner, staying in her room, locking the door. I feel awful. I want to apologize, but I don't even know what to say. I know what I said was cruel. I do. But I also feel like I've spent years tiptoeing around her insecurities, letting her lash out at me, and always being expected to take it because of her background. I've been made to feel like I'm not allowed to just be the biological child without carrying guilt for something I never chose. She's been through a lot. I respect that. But does that mean I'm never allowed to be frustrated? Never allowed to defend myself when she accuses me of being the golden child? I don't know. So Reddit, AITA?
AITA for canceling Father's Day dinner after my dad made a joke about my infertility in front of everyone? Hi Reddit. I honestly never thought I'd be the kind of person to write a post like this, but something happened recently that I can't stop replaying in my head, and I need some outside perspective because my family is completely divided. I'll try to lay it all out as clearly as I can. I'm 32F, and I've been married to my husband, 34M, for nearly 8 years. We've been trying to have a baby for over 5 of those years. It's been a long, heartbreaking, expensive, and emotionally brutal journey. I've had 2 miscarriages. We've tried IUI, IVF, 3 rounds, hormone treatments, and more pregnancy tests than I can count. The latest round of IVF failed just 2 months ago. It left me in pieces, both physically and mentally. Some days, I feel okay, and others, I feel like I'm barely holding it together. Most of our close family knows what we're going through, my parents included. I haven't shared every agonizing detail, but they know enough to understand that this has been devastating for us. Or at least, I thought they did. So, Father's Day rolls around this year, and I decided I wanted to host something nice for my dad. Despite everything we're going through, I wanted to make the day special. I cooked his favorite dishes from scratch, including this ridiculously labor-intensive brisket he loves. I decorated the dining room, printed out old family photos, even found an old VHS tape of a fishing trip we went on when I was a kid and converted it to digital so we could all watch it together after dinner. I spent 2 full days preparing everything. Our guest list included my parents, my older brother, 35M, and his wife, who's currently pregnant with their 2nd child, my younger sister, 28F, and her boyfriend, and my aunt and uncle. Small, intimate, just close family. Everything was going fine, normal family chaos, laughter, people drinking wine, catching up. My husband was helping in the kitchen while I tried to play hostess. Then, during dinner, my sister casually mentioned that she and her boyfriend were talking about trying for a baby sometime in the next year. Everyone smiled, offered their congratulations, the usual stuff. And then, out of nowhere, my dad turns to me and says, "Better get on it, sweetheart. Your little sister's gonna beat you to it." Tick-tock. And while saying that, he literally mimed a ticking clock with his hand. There was a second of stunned silence. Like time just froze. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. I could feel this rush of heat flooding my face, then my stomach dropped like I was on a roller coaster. My husband immediately looked at me, then at my dad, like he couldn't believe what he'd just heard. I tried to laugh it off at first, I think as a defense mechanism, but I couldn't. I just quietly got up and walked into the kitchen without saying a word. I stood there with my back to everyone, hands gripping the counter, trying so hard not to cry. But I couldn't hold it in. I've never felt so humiliated and raw and exposed in my own home. My husband came in and asked if I wanted him to say something. I nodded. He walked back out and, in a calm but firm voice, said, "Dinner's over. We're done here. Please see yourselves out." That man is my rock. I heard some protests. My mom asking, "Wait, what happened?" My dad muttering, "What?" It was a joke. Someone dropped a fork. My sister said, "Oh my God, Dad, really?" But they eventually left, some quietly, others grumbling. I didn't come back out. I just stayed in the kitchen, crying into a towel like a teenager. That night, I sent a group text to the whole family. Going forward, I won't be hosting any family events in our home. I also won't be attending any until I receive a genuine apology. I hope you can all understand, but I need to protect my peace. What happened tonight crossed a line I can't ignore. Cue chaos. My mom called the next morning and accused me of ruining Father's Day. She said I had made it all about me and overreacted to a harmless joke. I told her that being mocked about my infertility isn't harmless. It's humiliating and cruel. She doubled down, saying my dad was just trying to lighten the mood, that I had misread his tone, and that I owed him an apology for embarrassing him in front of everyone. Let me say this, my dad has always been the kind of man who jokes at other people's expense. He calls it his sense of humor, but it often toes the line of being offensive or outright inappropriate. Growing up, if any of us pushed back, we were told we were too sensitive or couldn't take a joke. My mom always covers for him, no matter what. It's like it's ingrained in her DNA. My brother texted me separately to say he totally understood and that he would have done the same thing in my shoes. He even offered to host Thanksgiving this year so I don't have to deal with it. His wife, bless her, sent me flowers the next day. My sister, on the other hand, thinks I went too far. She said it was just a dumb comment and I should have expected it knowing how our dad is. That line hit me harder than I expected. Should have expected it? Does that mean I should always brace for public emotional injury at the hands of my own father? Is that the bar we've set? The hardest part is, this wasn't some slip of the tongue. It was calculated. He waited for the perfect moment, right after my sister said she might try for a baby, to turn the spotlight on me and make my pain the punchline of his joke. He knew. And he did it anyway. So now here I am. No contact with my parents for the moment. Low contact with my sister. Close with my brother and his family. And I'm still trying to untangle the guilt, grief, and anger that's wrapped around this whole mess. So Reddit. AITA for canceling Father's Day dinner after my dad's joke about my infertility? Because to my parents, I'm the villain now. I'm the daughter who ruined Father's Day. But all I did was refuse to be humiliated in my own home. I just want peace. I want boundaries. I want basic respect. Is that really too much to ask?